YouTube comments from a video titled Watch. The most compelling argument against tech in schools vertical bar, Sophie Winkleman. Part 14.
At Annie Ordinova 7307 wrote,
I was born in 1998, so I guess I could be considered as an early Gen Z. I am from Bulgaria. While I was at school, we did have access to phones and technology, but mainly computers for IT lessons. Now, the phones that I had were the old analog ones with the buttons, no internet, no touchscreens, nothing. I got my first proper smartphone when I was in ninth, so around 14 to 15 grade, and it had the crappiest internet connection and signal, so you could barely do anything. Now, for me personally, not having a better smartphone was because my family couldn't afford it, but also because my mother was definitely against it. Most of the kids in my school who had smartphones, better ones, had issues even back then with focusing, concentration, thinking, explaining themselves, studying discipline, etc. Of course, the phones were not the only thing to blame, but they did add to the problem. I think technology and phones are good things, can be good things when used properly and in moderation, especially when it comes to children and teenagers. We should not give children so much access to internet, phones, iPads, etc. at such young ages. And no amount of parental control can actually protect them from the harm, unfortunately. Bad people with ill intentions always find ways. Additionally, the children are becoming worse academically, worse in discipline, worse in behavior towards teachers, parents, and their own pupils. I think there should be moderation, and kids should not have access to smartphones and iPads with internet access before a certain age. We should let them be kids. Also, it is super concerning the fact they have more and more trouble reading and understanding what they are reading, with their behavior and discipline, with handwriting even, and so much more. Immediate action should be taken, otherwise the future is going to be bleak.
At Wakeupbuck 3860 wrote,
As an ex-IT teacher from the RAF and industry, back in the 1980s, who was a student of Tim Burnham-Lee's, very much promoted and taught IT first to children, then students and adults for half my life. That is to say, becoming a Microsoft certified trainer. I once truly believed it would empower and improve the human race. Now, after 10 years of retiring, I deeply regret and apologize for my stupidity and the damage I did. As Sophie states so very well, what I helped with other very keen and enthusiastic IT teachers created EdTech years later, which I so much regret laying the foundations for doing. That is to say, teaching subject teachers, and even worse, creating IT education software. Thus, I cannot agree more with Sophie Winkleman as more and more, especially having a school nearby. Seeing their zombie-like manner when walking home with their friends, but with mobiles in my hands, and learning to my absolute disbelief that they were as a group playing a shared mobile game. I so much remember by days of walking home laughing and chatting with my schoolmates and discussing news, music, and worldwide matters. I also, on retiring, became a private tutor teaching A-level courses, and in all ways, after not teaching pupils for 15 years, could see the true decline in their general intelligence. Please do listen to Sophie Winkleman. We need to follow her very wise advice.
At Emo Basharov wrote,
Although the speaker is talking about a real problem worth discussing and actioning, to make good decisions and actions, we need a wider perspective, while the presented one seems to be one-sided. To widen the perspective and make it more balanced, it would be good to reduce the idealization of the past, how everything was good before tech, and the catastrophization of the present and future. Also, it was never a good idea to stick everything happening to one cause, tech. Before tech, were more people capable of deep thinking than now? Before tech, were there other distractions that people used to avoid meaningful communication? Now, with tech on stage, do technologies sometimes help with something, including communication and mental health? Now, with tech on stage, are children and teenagers incapable of leaving their lives and communicating? With tech or without, are we aware of the existence of garbage information formatted into books? With tech or without, do we have an experience telling us that any tool paper, pencil, or tech is just a tool? So, no, I do not like the suggestion to go back to pencil and paper. I do believe that the balance can be worked on and improved. Any ideas of limiting and restriction should, in their turn, be limited for the sake of balance.
At Truth Touch Co. for YV wrote,
1 minute. Beautiful soul said it all. 6 minute. Wow. Later it is only more wise and honest. Children are the soil of any land. They deserve our kindness, and that kindness comes from wise, sometimes difficult from economical point of view for many decisions. Good for future generations. Thank you.
At Nature Space 444 wrote,
In some ancient civilizations, they believed there would be a time in the future where women who don't have children will rejoice. That time is now. There's no one to blame but the parents who gave up on parenting too. Parents have failed their own children. No one else. Time for parents to take accountability and responsibility for choosing to raise their children with screens. Can't say I didn't know either. There's no excuse for ignorance or negligence when you're an adult because all these millennial parents knew how to F each other. And evidentially, the rewiring of their own children's minds too.
At Alexandra 7751 wrote,
The Christian school I teach at, we do not use technology at all. We have an amazing school. Praise God. The 5-year-olds in my class read by second quarter. Jesus is the best teacher.
At Zojlatum 9501 wrote,
Active user-directed involvement in anything makes it far less stupefying. I get frustrated with these tech things and think I should be able to grab it by the zeros to tell it no. This is what I mean. This is what I want to see. Using YouTube videos to learn about something from multiple sources can be interesting. Just watching whatever tech thinks you should watch.
At Hobbyist at Large wrote,
Even though this is the crystal clear voice of sanity and reason, I wonder how many will actually heed her warning and do something about the inevitable destruction to humanity that progressive technology man's creation to benefit mankind will have on our future.
At user Ox1IG1HT6Q wrote,
For many children in the world, just like with my son, the mental advancement he has at 5 years of age with a smartphone is in some ways further than his and many other children's grandmothers have done in a lifetime. My son's grandmother, my husband's mother, when asked by me, "What is your favorite children's book?" answered, "We didn't have books at home when I was a child." I honestly thought she would name a book that she read to my husband or his brother when they were small, but my husband said she never read them a book. My son's grandmother, when begged to ask him a single question about how he spent his vacation, answers, "I don't know what to ask." You think this is a 1 in a million case? No way. So many children around have the same kind of grandmothers. My son at 5 has a smartphone, but he is able to be interested in people much more than his grandmother, to ask questions, to admire nature, to compose songs similar to rap songs, is bilingual, has traveled the world and absorbed the castles, kings, and princes and so many things that has made him more human than his grandmother is without books and with a minimal knowledge of a smartphone to an extent she doesn't even know that a smartphone can help her ask questions about her grandson's vacation that she can't formulate by herself.
At What I Think 45 wrote,
7.2 There is no 24/7 dopamine addiction on the part of most young people. Create a real spaces for young people to get out and do extracurricular activities with no cost of their parents, and we would see less time spent on the smartphone.
At Oikawa Sensei wrote,
I agree with everything said and give an example of how new tech can make teaching better. After teaching for decades, I now use a document camera and projector in my classroom instead of an old school overhead projector with plastic transparencies. Why is this an improvement? The document camera allows me to project the work of one student sitting at the front of the room as a scribe as the entire class works together with my guidance to learn new math concepts. I give the class identical paper worksheets that start with concepts they already know and then let them make the leap to the new concepts. These insights can come from any student in the class, not just the scribe at the front. This fosters student-to-student communication. When a student makes the leap of understanding, I ask them to explain their thinking to the rest of the class. This improves not only their learning, but also their interpersonal skills as they are forced to communicate, understanding of concepts either by talking or grabbing a marker and writing on the whiteboard that the work is projected on. Disagreements can get quite heated, and I do nothing to resolve them except for ask questions if there is an impasse. Using the document camera allows a level of comfort for the student at the front of the room because they are just using pencil and paper as always. This may not seem as important to people my age, but as is mentioned many times here, this generation is a lot less resilient. If anyone is curious about how I design my lessons, I created YouTube videos of the lessons years ago for parents that complained that their children couldn't learn in an interactive environment and had to be spoon-fed knowledge by a teacher. If you search PC 11.4 Po in T4 completing the square on Google, you can see an example.
At Marcy KP 144 wrote,
Does anyone believe she really saw what both people on the bus were looking at? When kids rely on TV and social media/phones, it inhibits their ability to be creative and come up with their own ways to pacify themselves.
At Obi 1607 wrote,
Today, parenting means shoving a digital screen in front of the children and then dumping them in the daycare. The value of parenting is lost. What people don't realize is when they are giving attention time to the screen, they are doing exactly what the people selling them junk on the screen want.
At Lasmikida 1199 wrote,
I used to take a bus to work at the same time every morning. I started to talk to the people sitting near me. Soon 4 of us used to talk to each other every morning. We found out that each of us were twins in our families. I never saw these people again after the COVID lockdown. I never took the bus to work and retired shortly after returning to work.
Kath Tundrew wrote,
This tech is robbing our children of not only their imagination and intelligence, but the dangers of exposure to pedophiles online is so real. Why would any parent give a child under 16 a telephone? Look what is being done with them. Their social skills are practically non-existent. Their English skills are depleted, and many are socially inept, hence looking for love in all the wrong places. Video games are also a danger because they have found many of them contain subliminal messages that showed violent images to children. Many of this tech comes from China or is controlled and invaded by China, and I don't have to explain how this is very dangerous.
At Spongybone 4071 wrote,
Who says they were both looking for companionship? No, they weren't. In all probability, he was looking for sex while she was looking for a relationship, so they were incompatible anyway. If she knew anything about online dating, she would know this. So she's talking rubbish.
At Sunatafisher 4758 wrote,
Tech equals dumb children that never bother to think for themselves or work anything out or never use their brains, thus it will get smaller crows have more sense than most teenagers.
At Mallory Gines 5050 wrote,
This woman is absolutely brilliant, and I agree with everything she has said. I see it in my 15-year-old grandchildren, and drum roll please. I see it in my 68-year-old self who grew up with none of these devices, has read thousands of books from the time I was first able to read. spent my childhood and early adult years outside enjoying nature, and to this day I adore gardening. But I can get the news headlines, the weather, my email, some YouTube videos of anything and everything, not to mention the books I still read on Kindle. These devices can be useful and helpful, but they are so very addictive. The question is how to achieve that balance for the very young and those of us who are older.
At de Volney 1575 wrote,
Similar problem is with the way women dress. Sexy is the trend. Path that will destroy you and leads others to destruction. I say WOE to you, who have any part in it. You are to be sexy in your bedroom only to your spouse. That's it. The message this woman say is true, but having a deep cut between her breast is not right. But I understand, maybe she just does not know. But you now do. Act on it. What is sad is that even godly men like this trend. God, have mercy on us and lead us to repentance.
At de Volney 1575 wrote,
That is because we are in a spiritual WAR people. This war is about worship. This war is between God and Satan, truth and lie, and we are part of it, and it is taking place on this earth. It is all about truth, love, and obedience. You either obey God or the devil. And the final test on humanity will be over the DAYOF worship. Will you obey God who said, keep the Sabbath Saturday holy, or will you obey the devil hiding behind papacy, making people to worship the devil on SUN Day, the false day of worship? Will you receive HIS mark that will cause you to lose salvation in Christ? Think again and make the right choice. Peace be with you. Joseph, Loud Cry Ministries, Czech Republic.
At Annie O'Brien 9783 wrote,
Yea for Sweden and also for Korea, where they keep devices away from young children. Doctors know their skulls are not thick enough yet to protect them from radiation that comes from so many devices. Brain tumors are on the rise among children in many countries, but doctors in USA say it has no known cause. Perhaps you are in a position to make a statement about this to protect the children.
And Maddie 605 wrote,
What's the point in having kids if people just dump them with others like daycare 90% of the time? No wonder the world is such a mess. Like these days are made to feel bad, no matter what our circumstances are, that if you don't work and our kids not in daycare, then are a bad member of society. It's stupid. What's the point in having kids if we're just going to have them in school by 8 and pick up from after-school care at 6? You spend like an hour with them for dinner, then bedtime. What are we coming to when we don't look after our own kids and worse, put people down who do?
At Govern Yourself wrote,
Excellent presentation. I especially loathe seeing parents glued to their phones while walking their babies in prams on the street. I pulled a mother up once and said, "Look at your baby," who had its little hands waving around smiling at its mother, but she didn't know. It's sad. While a libertarian, I'd support a ban on these practices for many reasons, including the fact that it's damn dangerous for both mother and child. Parents always need to be on high alert with their children, and even more so in public spaces and crossing roads.
Spiritually wrote,
Yeah. Also, if you go to ChatGPT and other quasi-AI sites, and let them do the work for you. You're not learning. You're not studying. You're not creating. Basically, you're gonna become a mindless drone, just like in Idiocracy. Just my 3 cents.
At AI 1.618 wrote,
To feed the AI, our children and their future. They are being replaced. They are being consumed. Our children have been in danger. Parents, get up and get to work. Protect and teach your kids. It's already too late. Triage now.
Spiritually wrote,
Yeah, as I posted in a Noto video. As I worked a summer job in a resort with kids, and when we were off and parents wanted to have a go about, meaning getting drunk and roasting on the sun till they are red, they left the kids on an iPad, phone or tablet in the kids' safe area, where tables and chairs were abundant. I thought to myself, what a sad, sad world.
At Mathabeeson 7867 wrote,
If the art mimics nature, we should see the mystery schools vehemently pushing back against the times. Instead, we see quiet compliance. I'm poking you, Mason. Your lost word is zeal.
C. T5136 wrote,
Why? One word. Pensions. One of the biggest costs to governments, paying their teachers now and in their retirement. But they have really missed the point, haven't they? Thank you, Ms. Winkleman. Absolutely and resolutely on point.
At Ancient Soul 5608 wrote,
This is the most important speech I've heard this century. This is the lecture that, if taken seriously and organized in favor of, quick enough, will give us our future back.
Cake Theorist wrote,
The entire society is built against middle-class families of own children. Everyone blaming parents doing their best they can is part victim of the problem. The only winners in today's world are the ultra-wealthy and Nepo affiliates. Most of my friends don't want kids, but they seem to just ignore the higher costs of everything correlated to declining birth rates. They don't care their own living situation will be much worse at retirement than previous generations. They just want to feel better. Right now, sounds like small children masquerading as adults to me. But this is the state of society. Billionaires win, middle class beats each other up.
At Frequency 5283 wrote,
They call the game a switch because that's what kids playing them do when it's taken away. They act like crack addicts needing a hit. Also, we don't decide what's best for our children. The enemy does. So, yes, we are all guilty of failing them more than the schools do by sending our very young and impressionable minds into their clutches and madness in the first place. The truth hurts.
At Vicky Eden 1973 wrote,
EdTech AI teaching our children. I'm reminded of the scene from WALL-E, with the robot teaching the children the ABCs of how to become mindless consumers who never look beyond the screen in front of their face. Except that in WALL-E, it was supposed to have taken over 100 years to get to that point.
Trigger GT wrote,
I was watching a cup final a couple of years ago. Jurgen Klopp was walking down the Wembley steps after receiving his winner's medal. Fans were waiting at the side of the steps to shake their hero's hands. One young fan held out his hand and Jurgen shook his hand. The boy was holding his phone in front of his face to film the interaction. Never looked directly at his hero, was looking at his phone. Not only was it extremely rude and ignorant, it was really sad and depressing.
At Ice Cream Truckhog 3667 wrote,
Well, this woman is not seeing that it is she and other parents that are doing this to their own children. Don't play outside because a stranger can kidnap you. The overprotection of mothers is stifling the development of children changing into adults. Children cannot watch videos of sex, violence, or other behavior that can potentially harm them, so the children never learn to deal with those feelings.
At Ethan Young 5200 wrote,
Good presentation. She's not challenging the underlying idea of a Prussian factory worker classroom being an actual effective place for children to learn. I was homeschooled and have an immense love for learning that barely any of my peers have.
At Karsten Fisher 5098 wrote,
If you're not around her age or older, you won't know really what she is talking about. You haven't lived a life without a handheld screen. Add a lot of sugar and shitty foods, and you will end up with disaster.
At Jesse Kaiser 6373 wrote,
EdTech needs to stop. As a 28-year veteran teacher, I have seen the effect technology has had on developing minds. Screen technology is stunting the neurological development of children, not to mention harming their emotional well-being.
We must put a stop to its use in the classroom and at home.
It's ruining present and future generations.
At Kristen Asvikovic 5F wrote,
They took chance from me to have them. They have blocked my bank account nearly for 1 year, ruined my health, neighbor kicked me down the stairs. They forced me to take pills against my will, locked me in psychiatric ward in room with camera. I slept in cellar when I was nanny, and second nanny let sleep baby at toilet. Headmaster from kindergarten sat home during COVID and let colleague with COVID to teach there. Friend poured drugs in my eye and nose. They ruined my life, robbed me. Doctor refused to treat me. I had to clean toilets as a job. Is this right? I am 3 years without income. Office clerk can't speak English to sort out my stolen clothes, luggage, shoes. Police didn't help. I never hurt anyone. They are bullying me now with children. Funny, not reality. Tabor, the Czech Republic, they pay €500 and put 1-year-old children to kindergarten. Just, they don't want to care I am not mentally ill.
At Harrisk 8101 wrote,
This is the deliberate creation of the subhuman species through technology that the global elites have sought for decades. No imagination, no connection to source, and the worst part, no pushback from parents.
At Francescu 5057 wrote,
Tech brings out the worst in teachers. They can passively play videos rather than actively teach. They can let computer-grade students instead of themselves. When I heard my kids' school's internet is out, I leapt in joy, but my kids said most teachers know how to just use their smartphones as a hotspot to get back on internet. It is sad, sad, and sad. A 9-year-old is learning all the animations and fonts available on PowerPoint rather than the substances. Teachers are downgrading their expectations accordingly. Graphic novels counts as reading. It is tragedy.
At Thamashumber 9762 wrote,
Why is none of it regulated? YouTube is disgusting, and with its ALOGRHYM, tracks the same shite KIDS watch and kicks up the same type of videos again and again. KIDS TV was so good in 70s, 80s, 90s as was controlled. Now it's out of control.
Mac wrote,
I work in a very expensive private school that just banned cell phone usage during school hours. It has worked extremely well, and these kids are going to be way ahead of the average kid because of it.
At AtMeWitsend 1984 wrote,
I agree wholeheartedly with this lady's sentiments. However, I am concerned that the government already have too much control over our lives. I am all for children spending less time looking at screens, but not at the cost of more of our freedom of choice. It is the parents' job to teach their children the power and beauty of seeing and being in the world around them. I realize that children are highly motivated by their peers.
I remember the embarrassment of not having the latest fashionable trainers/sneakers as money was tight in my home, and I would only have a cheap imitation of them. It actually affected whom I hung around with at school. All the cool kids would hang around together all wearing the exact same things, and as a teenager this status was the most important thing in my mind. I realized later these superficial things were not important, just as my parents told me at the time, but of course I dismissed it, as they were really old and obviously they didn't have a clue about being young in this modern world as they were in their late 30s, I would imagine now. Things haven't changed a lot in the past 45 years. The main difference would be the use of technology, and what phone you have would be the equivalent of my trainers. Though I would also imagine that the other children would be hyper-aware of the latest fashions as a result of their online activities. And it may actually be even harder for the ones that are less well off financially. I have to admit that I had no idea how long such young children spend looking at screens in a single day. 7.5 hours is insane. The biggest concern, though, is the increase in suicide in the young. I lost my own brother this way over 30 years ago, at the age of 24. There could be a correlation with the overuse of the technology, but I also believe it could also be a lot to do with the media and society as a whole. We are constantly bombarded with fearful stories such as climate change and deadly pandemics. I feel that the MSM are creating division in every aspect of our daily lives, and this must have a profound effect on young minds in particular. As someone older, I see through a lot of what we are told as hyperbolic or politically motivated. We all have a responsibility to guide the younger generations, but I certainly do not want the governments to do what they do best, and that is to jump to the easiest conclusion and blame everything on a single thing and ban its use. I really do not trust them at all.
Ashraf Gun H6N wrote,
Now new generation are seems so brilliant and intelligent, as their minds were embedded with memories of past plus future. Nice change if suppressed in pleasant, and thorough, respect and positive. Green, clean and smart. We are letting the way which they have to lead.
At Digital Esclasenzimer 7278 wrote,
I try my best to avoid the digital world for myself as much as possible, and especially for my children. Unfortunately, it is very hard to convince other people, since our government in Germany pushes digitalization into schools even more. How about we look for actual studies that we could use to convince other people? Let's try to make a list. But since links will be deleted, we will need to work around it.
At Pearly 6028 wrote,
Monkey does, monkey do. Men are being erased from young males' lives, and now society can reap the consequences. Women have had their hands on the levers of influence for at least 25 years, and women cannot live without a smartphone, fact. Smartphone, dumb kid.
At Balloon Factory 1 wrote,
I didn't even have a TV until I was 11, and every day felt exciting and new. I could read by following what my parents read by the time I started school. My dad read me all the classics: Lord of the Rings, Alice, Treasure Island, Peter Pan, Tom Sawyer. The games, fun, activity, and invention were endless. Those years still shape who I am and how I live my life, how I feel minute to minute, and I thank God for them.
Eddie Kalagroshny wrote,
Being a teacher myself, I can totally relate to all of this. We all should take steps to work towards improving the condition, whatever we can do.
At Shelitsuza 8902 wrote,
As a retired teacher, I resonate with this message. I often spoke to the parents of my students that the children will be a lost generation if they remain addicted to the screen.
At Raphael Chan 888 wrote,
With the example of the young singles on the bus in the intro, while I get the message and sentiment, I would say that for young men navigating the landmines of political correctness nowadays, that was probably his safest approach. Looking for a partner online, it is clear that not only are eligible partners available like when women wore rings to indicate their marital status, but also clearly looking for a partner, listing their preferences, age it's on them if they're lying, and like so there's very little confusion or false assumptions. The alternative is a high risk of unwanted sexual advances on the bus, without knowing the girl was also looking through dating apps.
At Peter Blunt 6407 wrote,
BS, that's completely wrong. Would you prefer stop teaching reading to our children because they could read something harmful? Teach them how to use technical devices and to learn how to handle all the information, dangers, and opportunities of the World Wide Web. Keep busy with your children.
At Wevrin 2 wrote,
I'm only 1 minute in, but not only does the anecdote seem slightly fabricated, but it's not like either party knew the other was available and looking. One of the major issues I have is that when I've finally started to talk to someone I'm interested in, they are already in a relationship. Odds are if I'm sitting near someone on a bus, I'm not going to just ask them out of the blue without knowing their interests, availability, or political interests, unfortunately something that matters more to me now than it used to. I do agree with the sentiment that we need to stop being glued to our phones, but this wasn't the best way to explain it.
At Sarum 1159 wrote,
As a parent and former teacher, I have seen benefits of judiciously applied technology as a supplement. It's scary, though, when schools and parents blindly plod forward into replacing the real world with the digital world. I had an instructional assistant who had saved low-tech tools from the dumpster, and I was so grateful for it because I was able to pull them out of storage to benefit my students.
At LIVINGSHISM wrote,
This is really more on the shoulders of parents themselves, and their need to both be outspoken to the education admins and them making a decision themselves to rid their home of such devices and their own dependence on them.
A 65-year-old skater wrote,
I fear that we are rapidly approaching the time when we will no longer learn subjects and absorb intellectual information. Instead, we'll only need to learn how to use and prompt a computer program.
At Danilu 1763 wrote,
I was having breakfast in a hotel restaurant and noted a mother and 2 daughters with their heads bent in silent prayer. While not religious, it was at least nice to see shared commonality in a family. After a while, I glanced over. All heads still bent over their individual cell phones.
At Sandrin Lembo Santamarina 6227 wrote,
I am an architect worked in Dubai, working on leisure projects where they could experience through fantasy glowing schemes and dream-driven ambience was the target on the designs. As you mentioned, no imagination, all sold to believe what the fantasy is selling you very difficult to achieve, and at the same time dehumanizing. Thank you for this talk, but none of these tech digitalization era that are very consistent all over is no coincidence. It's just imposition towards dehumanization, non-human scales, and submission towards experiences.
At Sandrin Lembo Santamarina 6227 wrote,
Good thank you to ARC and all the people on these talks. Really so necessary to put things in perspective and lessons learned that this pseudo-futuristic and the lies modernism imposed to all one can learn from.
DF Joe Kowar wrote,
Just saw another video from ARC called You're in a War and You Don't Even Know It. Vertical bar Eric Weinstein and I just drew several parallels. The online battlefield, that is part of the culture war. Those kids she mentioned in the beginning. They're casualties of that war.
Cremandant wrote.
Oh noes! The children are reading and playing out of my control. This pearl clutching is unbearable and dangerous. The future will be hybrid between digital and physical connections and relationships. Only then will we have our greatest potential.
As Sam Carlton wrote.
Myself, being a 53-year-old that is addicted to information, I would love to return the reading books. But without CS Screen, how do I find things worth reading? I'm very open to any thoughts or suggestions.
And Music as We Make It wrote.
Look no further than America and Trump and Elon, who spend hours a day on social media. And look at the state of affairs when adults are influenced by shiny objects.
At Vivektulja 4516 wrote.
I agree with everything Sophie has said. But we adults are also acting in exactly the same way. Look around, you will see that every adult too is glued to his or her screen. How are we going to provide the right upbringing to our children?
At Amorais 957 wrote.
You boomers can't even restart a phone. Meanwhile, those smart kids know how to search for a specific video in 3.0 just by memorizing where to click or touch. Stop being boring and ignorant. Tools make smarter, not dumber.
At Syfola Ul7OS wrote.
It's a wake-up call for all of us. Humanity is suffering. We all agree to one-point agenda, no cell for kids. Pels make it a slogan everywhere.
At Neil Lovett wrote.
There is much more to this than the derivative arguments made here. Technology isn't the issue, it's the services available for it and the management of the technology by schools, but mostly by parents who are themselves addicted to their phones and computers. Parents model the poor use of technology. They enable access to devices that expose children to damaging social media, messaging in the world of strangers, often starting at 8 years old. Parents also suffer from the cognitive dissonance that the world is unsafe outside the home and won't let their children go outside to play with their mates. Instead, they keep them inside with access to screens.
Aquino77 wrote.
The best 20 minutes I spent in a very long time. This tragic development is not only happens to children, but to adults as well. Once we used to communicate at work. Today you often see a group of people, all staring at their phones. I'm no better myself, but I'm happy to have grown up in a digital-free world.
At Homeandalone 1640 wrote.
This is a good argument for banning smartphones for children, full stop. There are also good arguments for keeping tech out of primary schools. Removing tech from schools altogether is a ridiculous conflation of the issues involved. School-provided teacher-controlled devices can be an absolute boon in not only helping children learn, but also in teaching a healthy approach to computer use that they aren't learning at home.
And Day0423 wrote.
This made me sad about my country, Philippines. As a father of 2 young boys, I needed to hear this so that I can start the change within my family. And I'm very thankful to God that He showed me this talk. This is what my country urgently need to start considering to focus with. I hope and pray to God that this video be watched all over the world, and for you to be successful in this program of yours. I know this will succeed in God's grace. God bless us all.
A Chocolate Bear 333 wrote.
If you're a new parent or a parent considering giving your kid a smartphone, read these comments. It's all true. Be a parent. Do not give in. You will lose your child. It's not parenting to distract your child with technology.
At Georger6624 wrote.
That Amish community goes right, and we got it wrong. I would put an Amish child that graduates 8th grade cause. That's as far as they go against our 10th graders or 11th graders. and they would still win. The Amish people would always.
At Emma Hardesty 4330 wrote,
Hooray and thank you. Glad this has risen to the fore. Tech removes make-believe. That might be the greatest loss of all. It's the realm that leads to invention, exploration, creation.
at Tim Romanelli wrote,
Sometimes, through no fault of our own, we've been cornered into allowing the state to indoctrinate our children. I was blessed to have had K-5 in Anchorage and Kenai in the early to mid-70s. When we moved to the lower 48, my lowest grade level was 10th grade math. The rest, college level. From 5th grade to expulsion in my junior year, it was total stagnation. Our education system was taken over by the Rockefeller cabal, called the Prussian industrial model. It's by design. I want a nation of workers, not thinkers. John the 500th Rockefeller.
at Tracksuit Cheems wrote,
This take is brain dead. Don't trust anybody using the word tech unironically. While an argument that unlimited screen time is bad can be made in a compelling way, this woman has zero clue about what skills will be useful in a post-AI revolution world. From the blue light boogeyman to the AI won't be able to reproduce empathy canard. She hit all the crunchy mom brain rot talking points while brushing over a small number of their true causes in the briefest, most unintentional way. 4/10.
at Dr. Goldfoot PhD wrote,
I like how at 15:33 they cut to the crowd, and right in the center is a guy who can't be bothered to look away from his smartphone.
at Sharon Madero's 9819 wrote,
I don't think people realize the insidiously evil effects AI is really having on us all. It's actually changing the way our brains function. It's erasing our ability to connect to each other and eliminating creativity and imagination. Children no longer know how to play anymore. AI provides constant passive information that makes it difficult for us to think for ourselves. Eventually, we will be completely dependent on it and be unable to function without it, because our brains will be unable physiologically to work as they were meant to. AI is even robbing us of human emotions such as compassion, kindness, faith, hope, concern, patience, and love. It's stealing our humanity from us.
as Stephen Seabird wrote,
Worse is when they hand the tablet to a 3-year-old in a stroller to keep the child occupied. It should be absolutely taboo to do this. A common understanding that this is creating a dysfunctional teen leading to a maladjusted adult.
at Sir Lube 1551 wrote,
You allow a device to be the primary source of communication. You allow it at breakfast, dinner, and tea. You allow it to dictate their sleep. You allow it to give them inappropriate videos and misinformation. You allow it to override their safety. You allow them to view the world through it, and you allow their privacy and personal information to be sold without informed consent. And it's no use saying they need a device because their peers all have one if their parents never let their own devices out of their sight. Life hack. Doing things the easy way is never the easy way. Be a parent. Not an excuse.
at Right Noddings 9782 wrote,
Brilliant speech. Bring back real teaching and excellent teachers. Bring back the innocent minds of our children to be curious, to be excited in their imagination to explore.
at Rich Poor Worst Best 4812 wrote,
I teach AI and cybersecurity to the military. How do I teach that with no tech? As for kids, now of the chance to treat what they need. Finance, social engineering, what a lie politics is during the modern day, how tech is an assistant integrity. Safe online habits on. There I say. open source programming tools. Art as a therapy, and I can go on. But what I have stated won't happen as AI teachers are cheaper and synthetic data will allow for government-led social engineering for the masses. It is 1,000,000,000% already decided. And I see in my work. This generation will simply refuse old ways in the same way we refused paper and pen over calculators. I agree with all this. Change the curriculum to topics which will build skills for future existence. This is more complex, and the powers that be have already made these choices for us and our kids.
Ecole Handlook 1503 wrote,
Bad sign that everyone claps at the end for we need to ban devices from kids' life as much as possible, but next line was kids need to be inspired to not use them and silence. Like you missed the point, PPL. You don't just ban something someone loves, you need to offer an alternative.
At FSJ 197811 wrote,
Breeders don't want to be parents. It's far easier to stick a phone, tablet, etc. in the kid's hand and get them to shut up while you go do something else, likely being on the phone yourself. Nope, I don't have kids, but I've seen what the modern kids are like, and they're running wild because their owners don't want to deal with them. Yes, I know there are good parents out there, but they're becoming the minority.
At Jackie 7511 wrote,
Yes, but you educators are the ones that demand that children have a laptop as soon as they get into high school. Yet at the same time, lugging around a school bag over 15 kilograms every day. Make up your mind, either technology or not until Y11.
At Nanny Petra 3407 wrote,
Bring back the phones in your home. This would stop bullying in us all and would stop adults having affairs hiding. It would stop any type of criminal activities. Only time you need tech is at school or work, and they all have a phone that is used for everyone's safety concerns in that environment. Before technology, criminals hid in church. Now they are in plain sight watching and corrupting us all with our mobiles, computers, and tech games, such as sad reality we face every day. Great speech. This is what the world needs, facts and truth. All this from an Australian grandmother saying thank why owe you time for reality check and a huge universal change.
At Nanny Petra 3407 wrote,
Technology hides the trash of the world. Parents need to take control of their children's lives like we did in the 80s. Kids were outside experiencing life on their own. Now go outside. Does anyone see children playing in any yards or parks? No, because they are all hiding inside the house afraid because of the BS technology brings with. And I said this back then in the 80s, and I was a teenager. To watch my grandbabies is a blessing. Everyone they visit, I love watching them being children by playing outside or walking with them for 1 hour to go swimming at the beach. Simplicity and unity, that's family. Not technology.
At Judge Bluey wrote,
which is why you should have a license to be a parent. TOO many uneducated dickheads purporting to be parents, when in fact they themselves are still wearing diapers.
As Shorkshire wrote,
I'm American. My country is already doomed. Hell, we have people in the comments here championing homeschooling when most adults are too stupid or too biased to provide a proper education to their kids, let alone one without screens. We're doomed. The use is fooked. Good luck everywhere else.
At Astrofan wrote,
Just the tip of the iceberg. Think it's bad now? Welcome to TikTok. Mobile phones with their memory and knowledge storage for their pets. Ever tried having a conversation with these people? They know nothing anymore. And idiocracy. D.
With message Software 2380 wrote.
What happened to your children? You let the government raise them. Poor choice. Now the only way to fix it is by the parents admitting they didn't know how to parent because the last few generations didn't have real parents. Just best friends who didn't want their kids to hate them, so they gave them everything, so they all became entitled spoiled brats. The 20 and 30-year-olds having babies are allowing people who hadn't haven children in 50 years tell them how to raise their children. Major disconnect happening.
You Can Swim wrote.
The thin line that needs to be traveled for AI and EdTech is the teaching of skills for the teachers and would-be coaches. So, we need to use tech and AI to support professional development for those interested in helping to coach our kids. There are massive shortages of coaches in swimming, for instance. People would be more willing to help if they knew what to do and had the skills to guide the kids at lessons, camps, teams, and such. This is the sweet spot. My podcast, Heavy or Not, tries to explore these topics. Playing well with others is a skill that needs to be taught, reinforced, and valued.
Andreas AKD wrote.
This hit home, and I'm glad to have been living as a child before the digital age. As I'm born 1990, I sadly got to experience the digital era as a late teenager and young adult, which really affected me negatively when it comes to focusing and learning new skills. I'm trying to cut back my digital exposure, but it's really hard when I work in IT.
Teacher 95 wrote.
Let's add education to the military-industrial complex. Classroom teachers aren't asking for this. It's coming from busybodies in district offices and universities being sold a bill of goods by global corporations.
Caden wrote.
614 had the great fortune of growing up in one of the very oldest cities in our continent. Every car or bus ride was spent looking at the people, avenues, magnificent buildings, often scary statues, and life itself. Cannot imagine children being constrained to what a screen has to offer them.
Gary B_13 wrote.
How ridiculous to suggest that they would be suited for each other just because they were both smart, young, and attractive. And how invasive to look so closely at what they were looking at on their phones.
Conoric wrote.
I used to think that the next 50 to 100 years of humanity would be exciting. But looking at young adults all around us makes me disappointed for the future.
Nishike 22 wrote.
Technology phones and in-school laptops have made people dumb and are ruining people. Kids can no longer spell, read, write basic literacy, and numeracy is at an all-time low. I've watched the slow decline of education from the 80s to now. It's insane. 2 whole generations are ruined.
Bruce Chesham wrote.
The mobile phone is a great thing, but it should never have been a complete access to the internet. That was what the home PC was for. It is a disaster.
NOC Kane 2372 wrote.
1524. Why is it considered progress to render ourselves obsolete? This question is powerful. Embracing technology to the extent that it pushes humans out of work. We need to ask ourselves whose side are we on? Humans or technology?
Fiona 3433 wrote.
What a lovely, intelligent, compassionate, and well-spoken woman. I love what Catherine Burblesing is doing. That's the way to run a school. Here in America, cursive is no longer taught, and even our most accomplished young students cannot read it. Writing cursive by hand physically stimulates important fine motor skills and neural connections in the brain, which positively contributes to its development. It is easy for children to learn, and I am sure there are still workbooks out there that have the 3-zone lines for practice as well as examples of the letter being taught both in lowercase and capital on each page. Spelling was also a separate class, and sadly, those that didn't do so well were put in a class called phonics. The whole language method students ended up being able to spell correctly, and the children put in phonics not so well, as English is a very phonetically confusing language. E.g., there. Spelling is not taught at all in American public schools now. Some have done away with recess, where kids could get outside and run off some steam before they needed to settle down to sit still for more classes. Many high schools have done away with gym, so our youth are not getting any exercise from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., 5 days a week, unless they are in a specific sport in high school. Childhood obesity and chronic disease are continuing to skyrocket, and children spending the majority of their time on screens isn't helping, but that's another subject.
The Speed R1V wrote,
I am anonymous. Here is how to fix the education system. Number 1. Talk to Luann Phillips about the need for movement. Number 2. Talk to Sabine Hossenfelder about what's wrong with academia RTT physics. I observe Sabina closely. There are a few things that we disagree on, but I respect her commitment to truth. She is the best demonstration of a physicist that I can find on the internet. P.S. If the prop is as bad as I think, then there's some fixin' to do. Number 3. Stop making kids so fragile. I have scars and broken bones from having fun as a kid. I survived. There is some uncertainty, aka risk, in the construct that cannot be controlled. Stop trying to eliminate it and embrace it instead. It's there for a reason. Ponder that, it's a pearl of wisdom. Number 4. Elevate spirituality, shared music, and emotionality plays are the best teaching method to at least the same level as intellectuality science. I have a whole rant about this one, but it elevates my blood pressure. So I'm going to try to summarize briefly. For way too long, we have begun the administration of education with the presumption that freedom of religion means atheism. Ha Satan does not phrase it that way, but it is what it is. Ha Satan is winning. What do you say we restart the education system with the presumption that yes, Jimmy, there is a GD, and here's the super cool part. 1. He loves us, even though sometimes it doesn't seem like it. 2. He gave us free will. That means we get to find our own path up the mountain to Him. 3. He left us clues in the init from many different paths to make it easy to find our own path. 4. GD has a sense of honor. 5. GD has a sense of humor. 6. Gede sends his angel Lucifer, bringer of light. Beware, put your sunglasses on the Riddler.